Hi guys, good to see you again.
Hey, good to be here, man.
Likewise, always a pleasure.
Let's talk about some cards. How about we?
Yeah, I feel we really haven't synced after we synced before launching this on calls, and then we just launched it and kept running, and now we kind of get, isn't it? Like it's been
It's
Yes.
like
2 weeks of
it's like atypical founders. It's like you run by your high five. It's like I'll see you on the next pass, man. The relay, we passed the baton.
And that's what we did. That's what we did. So I feel like, yeah, good to get together. I guess we should give an overview to people of what we built together, and then kind of talk about the next steps. Feedback from users have been awesome. Like I feel so there's a lot of organic feedback on your TG group on Twitter. So that's really good to see. Um,
You're familiar with Hypurr.Fi. We're debt servicing on Hyperliquid. It looks like a lending market, and it is a lending market, but we do all kinds of debt servicing in our future. And very recently, we launched in conjunction with Brahma and Swype.Fun a card. And that card, when you use it to tap, it's credit card rails, when you use it to tap a payment at over 100 million global retailers, it in real time takes a debt position on Hypurr.Fi against your collateral. And so you see the notification payment pop, and then you see the notification debt position pop, and you can repay anytime that you want to, managing your position on Hypurr.Fi. So it's been super exciting. We launched it, was it last week? Wow, feels like a little bit longer, but we've had some great uptake, and we wanted to get together and like just show people how to get onboarded, why we did this, kind of how it works and all that. So anyways, I'm Andy. Y'all know me. I'm Andy Hi-Fi. I'm head of growth at Hypurr.Fi. And this is my boy right here, Andrew Lloyd.
Hey everybody, Andrew Lloyd, famously a cat gif on Twitter. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of an experience just in terms of seeing this thing actually in the wild. The tweets and comments and people posting their transactions for buying cat food, or myself, bull posting around my Waymos, and it's actually a surreal experience when you order a driverless car with your internet money and it all happens in kind of like real time on Visa rails, and realize that there's like there's middlemen and facilitators in the middle, of course, but like no bank. It's like you literally have position, you borrowed, facilitated, spent, and that just feels like the future is right now. It feels
What
pretty
we're doing
gnarly.
next year is we're going to Dubai, and we're going to get the flying cars. We're going to get the helicopter drone with our internet money. It's going to be,
Yeah.
we've made it. I'm going to ride my hoverboard around. It's going to be amazing. Ali, our community needs to know you and Brahma and what you guys are about. So do a quick intro too, please.
yeah, Ale, one of the co-founders of Brahma, and I feel like cards is kind of like one of the products that came up really quickly within Brahma, but it lets us show how what we've been building under the hood for years. So we built an orchestration protocol that can essentially take feedback from any place and execute in real time any type of position, any type of transaction. First on the on-chain, and now the way for us to also show that off-chain is programmable within the system was to add cards first. There's obviously a lot of other surfaces that we want to touch, and really pumped that we got to ship it so quickly with you. I think this was one of the quickest partnership ships we've ever done. Like I think we took like 5 days to go from chat to production, which is crazy. And then the actual thing that is like 100 users plus running around with cards and doing things in a week and a half, whatever. It's also really good.
A lot of the feedback I've gotten when I talk to people about it, they just they don't get it until they see it. So can we see it? Can we just like get right into that and see what does it look like? How does it work? And then we'll kind of get into all the whys and the hows and the cool stuff alongside.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to share my screen, run you quickly through my card. Don't steal the details. I won't show them. So the user onboards with their wallet, okay? We built this experience to be first very crypto native, and then we progressively will abstract it. Next step is mobile. And the idea is to like allow a user to start from zero. But for today, what we wanted to do is people that have a position, like you guys said, and they want to borrow against it in real time, they want to spend against it, they don't have to kind of create a new wallet, move their money, have custody assumption on us. So it's all like self-custodial. I literally connect whatever wallet I want, and I directly have to onboard once, do a user verification, and then I link my source of essentially borrowing that transactions can be performed from. So in this case, I already linked my Hypurr.Fi position. As you can see, my collateral is down here, and I can always manage this collateral myself because it's on my wallet. So if I want to actually manage it, I can just go to Hypurr.Fi and basically connect my same wallet that is now connected actually. And yeah, you can see my position is here. I have $820 of collateral deposited, and I can always add more collateral if I wanted. Like I have more K Hype, I can add it in. I can repay my debt that I just took from a payment today, and I can manage it myself. So your money is in your wallet. The only thing Swype takes is an approval in order to be able to borrow against it, as you guys said. So now I have a limit I can give to Swype. I can choose how much out of my borrowing power can be used by Swype, and I can authorize it and change it anytime. And then I can basically spend. So, if I place a transaction and I basically pay wherever, the transaction automatically gets recorded, and a transaction on chain is initiated by Brahma instantly on Hypurr. So as you said, I gave you the collateral that is approved to Swype, and now I can go and use my card with Apple Pay, and directly it will essentially take a borrow for USDT on Hypurr.Fi. So I can see it here, for example. So I just spent, for example, $397 in my last transaction. And as you can see, I basically took debt on Hypurr with USDTO. So that's the power of this. This happens in real time. And I'm actually doing another payment as well, just to see. It should run right away. So bank payment is loading at the merchant, and it's taking a little bit. And there you go. Yes, approved. So what happens in the hood, under the hood, as we said, what Brahma is doing and what Swype is doing is basically checking that you have enough borrow power on Hypurr.Fi to make sure you can basically get that payment done. And we will then take care of all of the complexity. Now, this payment just happened just now. This is 7:52 p.m. here. So this is a new payment that we just did together. And my on-chain transaction is there. So if I click on it again, the position automatically was created and the debt position. So if I go to my Hypurr.Fi page now and I refresh, my borrow obviously would be bigger. No? Yes, there you go. So I had free something.
Refresh. It's on chain.
Yeah.
It grabbed it and it showed it there.
You're right. I'm just used to compulsively refreshing. But yes, that's the power, no? Like I have my hype there, my K hype, that's earning yield. That's actually, I'm bullish on hype, I don't want to sell it. It actually went up in price. So effectively, like my APY of my debt is actually still a positive thing for me. So this is just one of the flows. I'll stop the demo here, but we're adding hooks next to this so we can chat about it right after this. And I feel like it's a fairly seamless experience. We will add mobile to this, as I said, and make it for non-initiated users. But now everybody knows how this works a bit.
No, bring it back. I want to show one.
Of course.
Because right now, so this is my favorite piece of this, right? You can spend, it's real, it's on Apple Pay. Like the onboarding is fast as too. It's like minutes to go. You do the quick sum sub thing and you got it and you connect it. It's crazy fast onboarding. But when you go to Hypurr.Fi right here, up top on the tab, go on the Hypurr.Fi tab. Over here in USDT 0 and his borrows, you can click swap. Right now, he's paying 9.35%. That's a pretty good rate on a credit card, right? That's actually a killer rate on a credit card. But go to the Hype, the swap to, you can switch to another stablecoin. Other stablecoins will have different rates. Because this is a variable rate market, sometimes the cost of USDT goes up. And so like yesterday, I just refinanced. I had my debt and USDT was higher. It was 20-something%. I was actually in USDE and it was 30%. And then USDT went down. I was like, oh, well, I'll take that 9% rate. And I swapped right there. And then it's an atomic transaction. It's an approve in the wallet. And all of a sudden you're switching your debt from a higher cost to a much lower cost.
Like this, right?
So crazy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dang. Nice.
You get right there. So our user base is also traders too, right? So I've had people come to me and be like, dude, this is so cool. I spend in Tether and do my thing. And he's like, and then I'm just like, I'm bearish on ETH. So I just debt swap all my payments right into ETH debt. And so now I'm short Ethereum as a positional trade in terms of like, where they are. I'm like, you guys are like, I love traders. Traders who just come up like, I wouldn't think of that, but I'm just like, this is what you love about this. Is like, this is what gets you excited. I'm like, this is what the power of these things is. Really opens up the user experience a lot.
Honestly, this kind of, I just did it now just to show the users how quickly it was. Yeah, there you go. Like now my debt is in FEUSD. I'm paying 4% APY. And then obviously I can repay as much as I want myself. So I could repay half of this today and half of this at the end of the week. Now imagine I have a yielding position elsewhere that automatically repays this. Even imagine that this switching and refinancing is a hook, like an automation that I want to do every few days because I don't care what stable I'm in. So I feel like this is the right time to talk about hooks briefly, just so people know what they are. So let me just show you a very non-technical diagram of this. But basically, yeah. So yeah, here we go. So you have a vault position or a normal Hypurr.Fi position of any kind. It can be just supply, it can be supply and borrow. And now you can do hooks, which are essentially automations that run either at the time of the transaction that you do with your card or even before. So now we're talking about a transaction hook. I can also explain quickly the pre-transaction hook. But transaction hook is this example that we're pushing out soon with Hypurr and Kinetic is every time I spend, I want to add a percentage of the spent amount. Let's say I spend $1. I want to add 30% and I want to invest 30 cents in Hype because I'm super bullish Hype. And in this case, even K Hype because I want to be Kinetic staked. So this is essentially, we call it the smart DCA hook to like make it a complex term. But as you can think of it as a automated investment, no? And you could do it with round-up capital. You could do it with a percentage. You could automatically buy tokenized stocks that you want to ape into. You could buy an option on Hype even, correct? You could buy a call option. You could buy into 5 tokens and just keep stacking a portfolio of 5 tokens every time you spend more than $10. So this is just like smart logic that we want to.
This is the card I'm going to give to my kid. They get in high school. They want to go to the mall. They want to go buy Starbucks. They say, okay, sure, you've got a limit, right? $100 limit for the weekend, and that's your, monthly or whatever it happens to be. But then there's a 30% buy on K-Hype every time that they're saving for college.
You're stacking.
That's it.
You're stacking.
Yeah, I really think this gets super powerful if you think on the supply side of the equation here, where you have yield-bearing primitives that you're spending your yield, but at the same point in time of converting yield into your real life needs, consumer goods, whatever, facilitation, travel. I think travel and transport will be a prime use case that I loved it so much with the Waymo traveling around. But things that you do often that you find that you're transacting, and like if you can somehow hedge that exposure or double down on that exposure, like imagine if you're just like every time you take an Uber, you buy Uber shares, and just like you get into these things like there's a lot of value to like putting your money where your mouth is, or to doubling down on your spend, right? Like a great example is like if you invest in one grocer or one retailer, but you always shop at somebody else, like that is such a juxtaposed value proposition, unless your intent is to hedge it. I want exposure to the guy that I don't service or facilitate. And because we have traders, traders love to invest and facilitate these things. Like I think call options are going to be a fantastic one. Like, it's a little bit of gambling on top of all your spend. Like,
yes.
And the upside here could be massive. You could buy like a $5 lottery ticket that turns into a $10,000 windfall.
Absolutely. That's how we start actually at Brahma. We built a yield vault that would take the yield you earn on mainnet, that was curve and convex at the time, bridge it to Optimism, and basically buy options, either call or put, depending on the signal, or actually buy a perp, again, a leveraged perp. And here you can do the same. You want a leveraged perp. It's a bit degen, but you want a perp, open a perp position when you spend or at a certain time, connected to your card. You're basically able to code any automated logic app. And the other thing we're thinking about is way less degen, but it's more like connecting this to like traditional finance or non-crypto people is what if you want to build a high yield credit card or a credit card that is connected to investment possibilities and you come from non-stable, so you come from fiat. We're thinking of linking virtual accounts to this. And now this is a pre-transaction hook. Every time my salary or whatever deposit hits this account, let's say 5K, I want to automatically on-ramp and open a position into my portfolio of 5 tokens or X vault for using my card with 50% of it. So it's the same, it's a hook, but it comes before a transaction of Swype. It comes at the time something happens, hits my account off-chain. So so this is the off-chain to on-chain kind of hook and automation we're thinking about.
I'm thinking about the investment vehicles. I'm American, and so I've got like investment vehicles for retirement, as many as I want. Right? There's a ton, and they're totally available in direct deposit, and like it's all benefited. But there's a ton of places that don't have that. They have card rail access, and so to do a spend and buy $1 of an HLP share or some low yielding vault, but like really like strong index or whatever it happens to be, like as a retirement fund for your spend, like that. That's what came here to build. Like that's so amazing to me, is like to enable that. So just thinking about those options is pretty exciting.
And honestly, like building this in non-crypto world, it's actually pretty hard. Like I was just trying to set up this myself as a European with, interactive broker and a bank or neobank, and just a simple, recurring transfer every time an amount comes in, and then recurring investment on the interactive broker. And like, until recently, you couldn't even set up a recurring order on Interactive Broker. And the second best, the Giro broker, doesn't even have that feature, no API to code it up. So, I mean, the state the state of this is pretty dire. I mean, there's Revolut that has some automation, but again, within what they offer. So if they don't offer something, you can't do anything about it. And here we're like piecing together 5-7 different blocks of products with, in weeks. So that's, I think people need to that's the imagination we need of what you can do.
Totally. And that's the beauty of an open system. You just literally just described the most eloquently why these systems matter is you have a programmable exchange sitting next to a completely programmable settlement layer and facilitation layer. And so now it's really there's no restriction on the code that you can execute and run to facilitate these operations, right? If you look at the other systems, like Revolut or interactive brokers or whatnot, to your point, you can't even go and build the piece missing and say, hey, this needs to run inside the context of your environment so that I can do this one thing that, unlocks all this value. It's like, oh no, we would never allow for that. It's like, oh, okay. So then I'm never going to be able to build this thing no matter how much I want to, absent completely replacing interactive brokers, or Revolut as a system. And then enter Hyperliquid as a prime example here, where you have, completely open access to do all these things. It's the code that you want to run and host and facilitate that allows for it. So I think this becomes the really the unbanking of the banked and the rebanking of everybody at the same point in time. The old systems just don't make sense for where we're all going and transacting. We need we need their distribution. We don't need their technology.
Yeah.
The diagram. So we've been talking about when you make a buy, what can you buy into, and there's all these vehicles that are really interesting. But at the beginning of the diagram, you had a vault too, a Hypurr.Fi vault. Now, right now, those are lending pools, right? And so you deposit into the lending pools and you use that as collateral. But is there a world where, right, your debt is managed essentially by a vault that actually, when I was showing the refinancing, could there be a curator that actually does that for you and just always balances to the cheapest rate? Could we optimize for the cheapest credit card borrow rates on earth potentially if there's this automated system? Is that within our
Yeah, I mean, also I think in conjunction with some of the tooling that Brahma has around their automation and feedback stack, the opportunity here is really huge. I think around for a user perspective, I always love the notion here is that you actually are at the center of this and always in control, and it's how much you want to relinquish here in terms of your appetite. But I see there being a world where users want to define an execution strategy or a spend strategy that is controlled by conditions. And so you can imagine, this is a great example, how you facilitate your assets and your exposure and your willingness to leverage in a bull market versus a bear market, completely different strategies. And so ensuring that we have capabilities and thoughtfulness for how users will want to change at a macro level, right? It's one thing if everything's up only, but when it's down only, who wants the leverage, and so yields go through the roof atypically when we have liquidity crunches. Supply side of the equation heats up as a massive vector of opportunity. You get massive shifts into things like gold. And so there's just a whole shift in terms of how spending and facilitation kind of happens. And I think that's what's cool here.
Gold debt right now, that's
right.
That
but gold goes up in a bear market typically, and it also earns on average global rate for gold, it's 3.5 to 5% if you want to lend it out. So being able to have these facilities that still, at the end of the day, you're not cut off from spending, which is typically if you're a bag holder going through a bear market, you don't want leverage, right? Because that's liquidates you sooner. But you need to spend. So a lot of strategies for people who throughout bear markets is accumulation. So if you can accumulate automatically from paycheck coming in, buys your asset of choice, you still get spend and leverage, and at a controllable means, and you're refinancing in real time to the best overall average rate. These become powerful accumulation strategies for users throughout different market events. And so being that debt servicing facility and allowing users to have that, that control the entire time is really a really powerful combination.
So some of the other inbound that we get, Ali, I want to ask you first, and then Andrew, your thoughts too. But we do get some requests about corporate cards. So these are kind of tailored for an individual, but they could be used for a corporate treasury or a DAO treasury or something like that. Are there any features that kind of stand out for that sort of user, or things that are coming? And I didn't prep you for this. Now I'm just taking over. I'm sorry, but this is an actual question that has come up that occurred to me as we think about user controls and what they want to do. That's kind of a different class of user a little bit.
I feel one-to-one, forget the issuing part of the card, which is compliance regulation and the fact that issuing to businesses and retail individuals look slightly different, but there's not a big blocker for us. Like we can already do it. As you said, the logic and the type of infrastructure they need is slightly different, but we're thinking a lot about just general treasury management. Now the question is it for on-chain companies or not? If you do, sorry, the office dog is.
This is a cat-only podcast. Oh
this
my
is
gosh!
This is a
Brutal.
proper dog. No cats are allowed in this HQ for now. But everybody has cat at home from the team. They just cannot bring them here. Cool. So what I was saying is nothing that we're thinking a lot about treasuries, and treasuries on-chain and off-chain companies will need completely different thing. So we're now thinking about off-chain treasuries and companies and merchants that are receiving payments, and therefore they're obviously they have a treasury now in fiat. But what if that was stable in a different world? Correct. Now we're converting everything. We're thinking, hey, an automated hook to actually put you into a yielding vault with curation or your own defined strategy. I mean, that's super powerful because there's nothing like this right now, or at least there is, but it's kind of like, again, startups that piece together functionality that is locked within their, this meow, and a couple other companies that do this sort of like corporate business treasuries accounts linked to accounts, usually US treasuries. Anyways, the tech is there from the issuing already, and all the Brahma stack can support this. The question is, I guess, what scale do we have to hit and what are the first modules they need? But in the retail and the individual part as well, we're adding spend mode now, which is basically spend directly from a yielding position with Hypurr as well. So this is actually, I think, the piece that will be most interesting to a treasury to start with, like automatically yielding and then using it, or maybe automatically converting and yielding and so on.
Yeah, I think that is where there's a yet to be seen massive unlock in terms of what's going on. So most recently, the SEC has come out with a lot of really crazy guidance, like as a builder in the space and seeing what's happening, the breaking down of a lot of like conventional barriers. For those that are like listening, go check out Project Crypto. I won't get into the specifics here, but it does show you that there is a world where capital markets are emerging and coming to this on-chain facilities, ICOs, and whether they come back as we knew them or love them, but they're going to come back in some capacity, public being available to participate in capital raises. So more and more things happening on chain just means that on-chain finance becomes more and more prevalent for most people. So I think we see a huge influx of new companies that are going to be raising capital on on-chain venues or in some capacity. We've seen a few projects that have raised Hype as an example. And it's not like it used to be. You don't see there is these large-scale blockbuster, capital events by anonymous teams like we used to in the past. And so I think these become great vectors for these types of projects going forward, where we have like an on-chain capital base that still wants to facilitate in the off-chain world because they have to pay for cloud services. I think this is where this product eats like a significant ton of capital and volume. Is we go through the same process ourselves. Like we have our fiat rails that pay for things, but now the protocol generates enough revenue that it actually can pay its own bills, which is a pretty crazy kind of situation to be in. But we don't need to take the capital. We don't need to off ramp the bill payment. It can all be facilitated in real time from the spend side of the equation. If we have all this supplied capital as a result of revenue that's in our own protocol, we can pay for things. We can pay for our own needs and facilities. And like this is kind of the first time that that's been really pop. Like there's been a lot of hoops and whatever you could jump through beforehand, but it was still very middleman, a lot of hand holding oriented. So that excites me here. I think we see a lot of more actionable treasuries that are going and taking effective long positions or actual positional bets. A lot of yield opportunities as well. A lot of room for growth.
So we've talked a little bit about roadmap stuff. What's some user feedback that you guys have seen? I've seen a ton as well, like just kind of coming through some requests, common questions. I'll bring one up that Andrew will have to field, but like, what are some of the initial reactions that you're happy with, that you're sad with, that you want to work on, like anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've used pretty much every card product that is like tried to push for the crypto user since like the beginning. Like I literally went through the hoops of getting a European bank account as a North American because I wanted to try the monolith card. And then they couldn't even ship me the card in North America. They had to ship it to a European address that I then had to have pure-latered or UPS to my house. And it came like 2 weeks after I wanted to get it because good luck sending things out of Europe. And so it's like, there is a lot of like pain and suffering was had for years and years and years and years. And this is so good. Like I actually in my brain, I'm like, how do I just convert more of my spend into this model? Like, Like, why do I off ramp capital anymore? Like, why am I getting paid in traditional money at this point in time? Why don't I just convert all that stuff and bring it all on chain now? Because this applies to my family. Like, my parents could use this. Like, this is the first time that I don't have to like be that like you put it in your Apple Pay. Like from then on out, the user journey is like it's a preconceived. It's you're good to go. There's no other like hoops and valleys you have to do, and the occasional on chain limit settings. So there's like you put it in a mobile app though, and like that's all solved as well. And so this becomes just literally like a really good Trojan horse for retail and for the whale users that want to actualize their wealth to participate in kind of the same place.
And not to answer my own question, but like in contrast to Andrew, I've been a card fudder my entire time in crypto. I just never got it. Like the experience was bad, and like why would I do this and that? I could just use my red. Like I'm getting Capital One points. Like it's fine. Like I'll deal with that and just pay it off. But this was a very different experience. The onboarding was so fast. The connection was so fast. I had the position ready, and I could go and manage it so quickly. And it just works. And it's not like, do you want to use crypto at the merchant? No, it's just like pay and get out of there and like do your thing. And it's just so functional. So that is the feedback that I've been seeing with other people too. It's like, it's just smooth. It works the way you would expect it to work without having to go through all the stuff. So I love it. I'm a convert. Well done, Ale. Well done.
Uh, I think that's generally the feedback we got. I think, as I said, for crypto native onboarding, we obviously want feedback from crypto natives right now. So the feedback that we would get then is, oh, can I add one more wallet? Sometimes they said, oh, can I switch wallet? Can I add one more wallet? Can I don't want to borrow. Can I also spend directly from or yield or so, like things like that? How basically do we expand the controls on top of the card? Some people ask for physical cards, but we don't think that's like the first thing we should work on for sure. And people ask for more utility, like connected to this, like how do you, and we also think about it. How can we increase the utility of the card? How can we help you? Hooks are just to help you do other things that you want to do that normally you wouldn't even record as a thing a card should do. Maybe the yield portion is not something your card should do. But when you start thinking, hey, it's my wallet, it's self-custodial, I'm giving it limited approval to do things, which is why there are some little friction point, but on purpose, because you want to leave the user with the setup they prefer. And then we will do sort of a full abstracted version that will really be, I mean, what you said, Andy, curation with a vault and something like very hands-off. That's something we think of for people that don't want to have that kind of control and they don't want to sign ever. They just want to drop some assets in and say, hey, give me the best. Like, let me choose only maybe spend or borrow or not even. And I just want to spend from it, and you take care of the capital I give you every month.
So
Yeah,
and
and
no, go ahead, Andrew.
I say, like, and I think you get into some cool places here, just with like that whole notion around spending is, I know that we're not there entirely in the full rail system, but you can imagine when we have other currencies on chain that are just as accessible as the US dollar is right now, and you're a global citizen, so you're traveling and transacting in different countries. Like this could actually be passed to minimizing overall cost in terms of transacting. Where if you could borrow euros in real time while you're in the European Union, or dollars when you're not, as an example, or we have a user who's in New Zealand and he's like, man, the exchange rate for the New Zealand dollar was rough. And it's like, when he looked it up, he's like, oh, but it's not you guys. It's actually it's just rough right now in terms of the global market. And we're like, oh yeah. It's like, but it's like, if I could spend local currency or exposure that makes sense for them. And so I just think that's the power here is the users will finally in control of finances.
So one question that I've seen come from people who are still experimenting, and they go look at the system and they check their Hypurr.Fi, is they're confused, not certain about that debt, that borrow rate. So Andrew, like if I've got $100 in debt and it says I'm paying 30%, when I go to repay, am I repaying $130? Or the answer is no. How is that debt rate calculated? What am I actually paying? What's going on there? Because that 30%, that's scary to some people. They're like, wait, hold on. What's going on?
Yeah. So all rates are variable rate, and they're based on utilization is how they're influenced in the pool. So parameters dictate, depending on how much of the pool is been consumed or lent out, rates go up. But rates are also driven as the price you pay is basically a function of time. If that 30% stayed there for the entire year and you never repaid, you would pay, $130 back. It would be
a year.
Yeah, that's all factored into a year.
So a normal credit card, right? If you're paying 20%, 19%, whatever the rate is, that's at the end of a month. That's the interest payment you pay. This is annualized. That's actually a pretty big difference in the way this card is managed and sticks in people's minds.
Yeah, so you're just paying open market annualized rates. And so, the other thing too is you can think about this card is that like it's a vector for spend, it's not credit. And so you are over collateralizing the credit card rail, access to the rail with your capital. In real time, it's settled. And so your debt isn't to the card provider, your debt is actually to the protocol. And so should you choose or suffer a liquidation, it has no impact or functionality or a drawdown on your ability to facilitate on this rail. Your collateral and the protocol does. And so if we had a market event and your position was closed or whatever it is, you add more capital back in, you still have access to the facilities. And so that was a common question I got from a few users is like, well, who do I owe money to? And it was like, oh, okay, you are using a lending protocol. You borrowed from a pool. Who you owe money to, I have no idea. I don't know who these people are. There's a whole bunch of them that are providing capital in real time. You're spending it though in real time as well. So that's clear. You're basically just paying for access to the rail.
And then to clarify, like how the lending pools and markets and borrows work, like all the ratios and loan to value ratios and buffers and that's all.
Yeah, great question.
Documentation you can go find. I don't know if we need to get into that there, but that is available. That's a great question for Chat GPT. Point it to our docs and be like, what? Or actually, we have an AI tool too. You can go on there and say, how are these things managed to work? But that is a major concern. People see that 13%. Oh no, it went up. Oh no, you got to refine it. It's a variable.
Yeah, but then my net APY is here, right? Like that's important. Like I'm just borrowing $7 against 8.23 in this moment, and my 8.23 is actually yielding, and therefore, like I can see it here, like the different yield that I have for deposits, and therefore, like my actual net APY is very. It's negative in this case, it's very low, and I think people should. The most important thing for me is this: that you guys really show it very clearly how much I can borrow, how much I supplied, how much am I paying, and then obviously the refinancing part is super cool to do it fast.
Yeah, and then also just on that notion, like, which like for those that aren't familiar with how pooled models work, and so big shout out again to the Aave team for pioneering this kind of path forwarding a lot of the stuff. We use the Aave V3 tech underneath for our pooled model. So your assets basically have what's called a loan to value ratio, and it's how much you could borrow against your capital. And if you have multiple assets in a pool, atypically you can think of it like a cross margin position. All these assets have some kind of relationship in terms of the maximum borrow capacity. It's all calculated in real time, block by block. And so that's when you kind of see your max on that line there is where that kind of comes from. But we actually go even more conservative than the actual true max in terms of how the UI kind of puts you in stuff, is that we don't want you to be putting yourself in a position where you just click the max button on a borrow and you actually are at 100% of the entire capacity, because if the market moves against you, a liquidation could happen. So, our kind of like precautions are on the conservative side of things, but also giving you total freedom and flexibility. If you don't want to use our UI and you want to talk right to the contracts, you do you. But overall, yeah, like in the refinancing part is a big piece that I love is that I've been been refinancing my debt on chain for the last like 3-5 years, and depending on the venue and where you go, like it's also nice that you can farm some points or some exposures depending on what you're doing. And so being able to switch your debt around from one asset to the other I think is a massive win over the over the atypical ecosystems. Like imagine telling your bank you want to refinance your mortgage into you want to go short ETH, or you want to go long, long a yield bearing stable.
They're
like
48 hours.
Crazy for it. Yeah, exactly.
That's
12
super
credit
cool.
checks later, and a whole lot of pain and suffering through a bank. Here you can just do it in your pajamas.
I think we just we just have to explain it literally like that or very easily to people and show them.
A question I got is, can this impact your credit score? Is there a way to integrate this into credit checks? And that does not exist now. This has nothing to do with that. But that's just a question that came up from one of our users. Like, what could this have to do with credit scoring? We can pass that too. If we haven't thought about that, we need to bring somebody else in. Opportunity, hackathon.
I honestly haven't thought about it. One thing we've been talking about, I don't know if that's the right direction to answer the question. We've been thinking about pure credit and not only like instant debit, like Andrew said. This we've been thinking about a lot, and we're thinking about how this sets the building blocks to then offer under collateralized credit to users, because we have approvals on part of their collateral they choose to engage with us with. We have their repayment history, how they manage their loan, their risk profile, like on chain, of course. And therefore, like, there's a lot of things you could do in the back of this, but it will take some time to get it right. But it's something
But
we're
like
thinking a lot
I,
about.
as a lender, just an individual, could choose to deposit into a pool that supplies other people to borrow for that for this precise use case, right?
Right.
And I'm going to take
That's
on more
exactly.
risk. I mean, hopefully, I'm going to earn quite a bit more because there's quite a bit of risk there. But like, oh, that's sick.
Yeah. There are a lot of things that could be done. It's just, yeah, absolutely. It's just that,
Yes.
like, connect. Yeah.
So we have a lot of inbound. I've had many conversations over the last few weeks around what a private credit system would be like and why it would be valuable. And so I think what's cool here is you can separate the rail from the exposure. So if you get a credit card right now, you get a Visa or American Express or MasterCard. Okay, and that card is attached to that credit line. Okay, they are synonymous. You close the credit line, you close the card. And so if we break that notion and we say you have a rail and you attach the source that you want to the rail and you own the rail. I shouldn't say own the rail, but like it's your card, right? So you get a card for you. So if you go and you borrow from a private credit facility and trash your credit, you have, like, so you go default there or whatever, like it shouldn't impact your right to transact. So if the rail or the access to the rail is completely separately from where the source of funds comes from, like then it's just like, okay, well, you can't go use the private facility because you have terrible credit or you screwed up your access to the private facility. But you can always use the over collateralized, like that has zero risk applied to it. You've already paid, you're like, it's capital already paid for the thing, right? And so it's much different. So I think in the long scheme of it, if you had an Aave like pool or a vault facility that a user could just pull from and you could get stables out, we could just transact across the rail immediately. And so it's just who's lending and at what rates are users willing to pay. And this is where I think the debt swapping thing becomes really powerful, is that you can have multiple facilities that you can quote the actual debt swap through. So maybe you do have a fixed term lender who will quote you at a better than market rate. So you can always swap your variable into fixed rate. You deal with that on your credit, you pay that off, and maybe your paycheck's coming in. So like your finances are becoming highly programmable in general. And this rail for me is what really opened it all up, because that was always the problem, is that the rail was attached to the capital source and you couldn't facilitate. Even with all these other crypto cards that existed across the years, they are all attached to them. That is a domain and vector control that the user has no rights or roles there. And so things are changing, and I like that.
Absolutely. I think that's a great kind of closing note of where this all can go. Really paints the right picture of taking like blocks, make them programmable, kind of give access to anything eventually the user wants to add to their financial experience. No, what we just mentioned, we start with yield, under context credit, over context credit, and automated investment, stacking, kind of pension-like planning. This is all possible today, to be fairly honest. We just need to like lock in and ship the right blocks. That's why the feedback is good. Yeah, upcoming.
If you, as a user, so now to the watchers, if you want to give feedback and you want to get a card, come to Hypurr.Fi. You might qualify if you are an existing Hypurr.Fi user. We're always opening up spots for that whitelist. And if you intend to use and you're not on the list, you find us, you join the Telegram, we'll figure out a way to get you there. We're also going to be opening up quite a few more spots in the coming days and weeks. The best thing you can do is try it. Just try onboarding the card and go buy stuff, and you will see like this is a wildly easy experience. That's fantastic. If on the other hand, if you're a builder and you're like, how do I get my users one of these cards? Also come talk to us. We've been talking to a number of projects that are trying to figure out how do they do cards and lending, and how do they work with us. Open to those conversations right now. Happy to chat with you. My handle is Andy Hi-Fi right there. Andrew's is Andrew Lloyd right there. You can find us on X. I'm on Telegram on the same, and then Hypurr.Fi is the app. We've also got a fantastic Telegram community group that just has discussions around DeFi and the cards. Oh, and yes, there's points for the card as well. If you want to come and get some of those, there's points on card spend. We would love to have you follow at Hypurr.Fi. We'll be announcing more stuff with the card. By the time this goes out, we'll have a winner for our contest who will win a year's supply of cat food that we will purchase with the card and get your subscription via Chewy or some other delivery service, depending on your jurisdiction, however you get cat food. We'll figure that out. So we're working that out right now. Please stay connected to us as well. Ali, do you want to tell them where they can find Brahma and Swype?
Yeah. I mean, closing with I think by the time this will be live, we will have already spam mode live. as we said. So like directly get into a yielding position and spend directly from it as you swipe the card. And also hooks are coming up with it, with the automated investment and buy K-Hype as you go, as you spend. And yeah, you can find us Brahma.fi on Twitter. I mean, I love the Hypurr.Fi group to chat with user feedback and read more. So I love that. So please join the Hypurr.Fi group, the TG group, if you can find it, or ask us for it. And yeah, follow us both, and looking forward to more combos like this. Thank you so much, guys.
And maybe builders, like maybe there's a way to use those hooks, right? Hackathon. Let's start thinking.
Absolutely.
Let's plan together. Let's have more chats like this, and bring all of
Absolutely.
your unique talents as well. Thanks for hosting us, Ali.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Great. Appreciate it.